for mental neurodivergent disability, and it's a reclaimed term like queer as well. So we're doing lots of organising across the country with lots of actions, community support, wellbeing support, online protests, as well as protests on the ground as well. So please follow us on Instagram, Crips Against Cuts, and yeah, we really appreciate your support. And I've also I've written another speech which is just like a general rant about what's happening as well, if that's okay, from my personal perspective. Thank you so much. So I'm a proudly disabled, physically disabled person. I'm proudly mad, and I'm proudly autistic as well. And I don't accept this colonial ableism that mainstream culture and the government is steeped in. One that tells the world that we disabled people are wrong, lazy, evil, unnatural, and easy scapegoat, like the government and the mainstream culture that's been globalized tries to make us out to be. We are fierce, proud, natural, diverse, and amazing people just like anyone else. This is obvious, but in this culture of hatred and demonization of disabled and vulnerable people, it seems like it needs to be stated explicitly and repeatedly. We are trained to hate ourselves and each other, our bodies, to be ableist, to be fatphobic, and to internalize this. I work part-time due to my disabilities, which is still too much for me, and I talk to people day in and day out in my job who are ashamed of being disabled and who are ashamed of not being able to work because of their disabilities, who are ashamed of being mad and mentally unwell, of being neurodivergent. I spend a lot of the call valuing them and their experiences, and so many people radically change in the call and show me immense gratitude just from treating them like people who have value and people that I have compassion for and respect for. To hear this repeatedly and their low standards of behaviour from others makes my blood boil when I know and we know that this is completely needless suffering. Why should we feel anything but pride? Someone tell me. We are beautiful, valuable, worthy humans that deserve respect and dignity. We are owed that. We are owed people's respect, just like anyone else. We are owed their support. We are also owed money. Government benefits are actually a form of compensation for the ableist culture that we exist in. We are owed that money. In fact, we are owed more money. Most of us don't get what we need, and when being disabled costs us at least £1,000 a month more than anyone else, that means we are owed £1,000 a month more than anyone else. At least to compensate for the losses in this ableist culture that costs us just financially. And that's more than doable when doing a 2% wealth tax on those with over £10 million who earn that much a year could raise £24 billion a year. And when tax avoidance costs the UK £35 billion a year. This is whilst welfare cuts will save just £1 billion a year between 2025 and 2030. This is effing murderous, and these disability cuts, deliberate targeting of some of the most vulnerable people in our society. My speech is quite long, so I might just scroll a little bit. Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, exactly. Go on, Fred. Anyway, another thing that I'd really like to highlight is how different communities treat disabilities really differently. So a lot of ableism is emphasised under colonialism and capitalism racism. So I want to give some examples of how disability is treated very differently across the world. So some indigenous communities see disabilities differently. So the Hmong and East Asian ethnic group in China and Southeast Asia view epilepsy and autism as indication of spiritual and healing power and insight. Saka shamans from Siberia and shamans in Peru view people with physical disabilities as people with healing and spiritual insights as well, and are valuable and intrinsic to their communities. The Itako in Japan consider those who have visual impairments as being able to see into different and informing realities because of their lack of vision in this realm. The Dagara tribe in West Africa, Burkina Faso, believe that mental distress also has links to healing practices and have trained spiritual practitioners who aid people through this process. This has become so famous that some people that have mental health in the West have actually lived with these communities. The Navarro and Native American group view autism as another important aspect of their community and valuable, and are taught to view all differences, including disabilities, as intrinsically beautiful and essential to their communities. This is not to romanticize indigenous communities, but it's to illustrate the diversity of how we could treat disabled people and how we have intrinsic value just as everyone else does. So there's really amazing insights that can be gained from looking at diverse approaches to disabilities, including with disability studies in those areas. So here's a really great quote from someone who found disability studies and this area of decolonizing disability. This shows how valuable and valuing ourselves can make us feel so much more positive and different about these experiences. So she said, "My being named mentally ill led me to view myself as a problem, my histories and experiences as deficient, defective, and my perceptions as delusional. My being named this way also brought me to disability studies, which has helped me to realise that my experiences, histories, and perceptions are both valid and valuable." So this is just to illustrate that this is all tied to colonialism, racism, as well as capitalism, and we have to fight all of this on all these fronts whenever we can. I have much more to say, but quite frankly, I'm exhausted, I'm tired, I need rest, but I'm spending all my rest days going to health appointments, working on my activism for disability cuts, Palestine, Congo, and more. We are exhausted, we have had enough, and we all need to help each other. It's not just us disabled folks that need to do this work. Like with any undervalued group, the responsibility, and I would argue mainly resides with our accomplices, who have more privileges in these areas and often more capacity than us to do the work. At least we can take turns to allow those of us who need to rest while they continue and whilst we swap. It is time for community mutual aid networks, rest, swapping responsibilities for kindness, for compassion, for love, and for privileged folks to step up, and for us to not let this system take away our joy. Remember to have time for rest, for fun as well. That can prolong our health and our activism. Disabled rage and love is world changing. It has been before and it will be again. Solidarity to all peoples and to all those who are suffering in this difficult time. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much.